Here we go now, baby. Right back into the action for another day of the week. Welcome to the Friday edition of Before You Bet, Aaron live right here on the Covers YouTube and X channels. If you're watching on YouTube right now, you know the drill. If you watch a show, make sure you're liking the show. Make sure you are subscribed to the Covers YouTube channel as well. A lot of great content to be found here on the channel, covering everything that's worth covering in the world of sports betting. Okay, so a great big show planned for you guys today. We are on the doorstep of NFL Wildcard Weekend. Apparently, they don't call it Super Wildcard Weekend anymore. I don't know why. I'm still going to call it that. Super Wildcard Weekend. Jingles will be by in a matter of seconds. We each have a best bet for the 5 games taking place on Saturday and Sunday. And, of course, we're going to be back Monday to cover off the Monday Night Football game. So ripping through our best bets for the NFL. Then in the second segment of the show, Jon Metler will be here. Good-looking night in the NBA. Thunder, Knicks in New York City. That is another big one. It's nice when these NBA regular season games seem to have a little bit of meaning and a little bit of a feel to them. Okay, so you guys know the drill. If you want to participate in the show today, hit up that live chat. I think it might be over there on YouTube or on X. What is your best bet of the weekend for Super Wildcard Weekend? Let me know. Give me a little breakdown. I will read a few off throughout the course of the program. Okay, that is enough small talk. Let's get right into the action with our guy, the man with the sexiest smile in all of sports betting. Jingles, how are you?
Pretty good. Chilly, but I mean, if what we saw last night in college football is any indicator of what we're going to get to in maybe the biggest weekend of sports football, then I'm pretty excited, bud.
Yeah, that was a great game. The first half was a bit of a dud. Notre Dame came out swinging to start the second half, and a great second half of football there. So hopefully that carries over to the game tonight between Ohio State and Texas. If you're tuning in for college football coverage, we covered off the Texas-Ohio State game on yesterday's show with both Brad Powers and Jake Butt. Very easy to find here in the Coverage YouTube channel. Go to live, and it's probably going to be the first or second video there, so you can check that out. Okay, Jingles, we have 5 games between Saturday and Sunday. We each have a best bet for each of the games, so let's rip through these. I'm going to get us started here with the first game of the day on Saturday. The Texans playing host to the Chargers. My best bet for this one, I'm going to go under the total of 42.5. So low scoring football in Houston is the norm. The Texans 15-6-1 to the under over their last 22 home games. Only one game in Houston this season went over the total. Houston's offense has been just god awful lately. Go back a month versus the Dolphins. They managed 181 yards of offense. They only scored 19 against the Chiefs. On Christmas Day against the Ravens, the team scored 2 points on a safety. The offense scored 0 points in that game. So the Texans offense really struggling right now. And this aligns perfectly against a Chargers defense that allows the fewest points per game on the road, 13.9 to be exact. And when the team's getting close, I think we're going to see field goal attempts, not touchdowns. Houston, one of the worst red zone offenses in the league at 26 overall. LA, one of the worst when they go on the road. But check this out. The Chargers red zone defense, number 1 in the National Football League. So I think maybe a bit of a dud to get things started off here for the NFL playoffs. So we'll go under 42.5. Jingles, what's your best bet for this game?
You set me up very good. I was early Texas team total under 20.5. I got that at minus 118. That's not a number or a price that's available right now. So I was looking for a pivot basically under the same things that you were looking at. This Houston offense is dead last in success rate since week 12. Joe Mixon's running on fumes. The injury to Tank Dell really makes this a one-dimensional offense. So how am I going to get the most out of this low scoring, probably run first game versus 2 good defenses? Field goals. And this is a Jason Logan prop. You go over to covers, go over to free picks. This is right there at the top, and it sold me when I was looking for it. And this isn't like a handicap of, Fairbairn's one of the best field goal kickers ever. No, this is just stalling out versus the number 1 red zone defense in all of football. In Texas, as we've seen, lots of sacks with Stroud. They're going to stall out. 1.5 is a crazy low number for a game that bettors have already hit the number. It's to open at 44.5, 42.5. I wouldn't be surprised if it took more money on the under.
I also like Herbert over longest completion, 35.5 yards. Might surprise you to hear the Texans allow a lot of deep pass plays. Okay, on to game number 2 on Saturday night. The Ravens playing host to the struggling Steelers. I kind of like the under, but my absolute best bet for this game, I'm going to go with Jaylen Warren to go over his receiving yard total, sitting there at 20.5 yards. So this is a weakness of the Ravens defense. They have allowed the 4th most receiving yards to running backs this season. Warren has gone toe-to-toe with the Steelers defense twice this season. Totals of 44 and 27 against them. He also had a 39 against them in a game last season. And this is a guy who has a very high ceiling for receiving yards, 40 plus 3 times over his last 6 games, more snaps than Najee Harris and 4 of the last 5 games as well. So expect to see him on the field a lot. Maybe make things a little bit easier for Russell Wilson. A couple dump offs versus a team that likes to blitz the quarterback here. So Warren over 20.5. You are also targeting a Steelers player for your best bet for this game.
Yeah, it's interesting. When we had Hitman on Tuesday and I was talking to him, we discussed the idea of what's the difference between prop betting in the playoffs versus regular season. Well, in the playoffs, game script is worth even more because there is no tomorrow. So 10-point dog, George Pickens isn't coming off the field unless he leaves on his own accord. And that is within the realm of possibilities, as we've seen with George Pickens. But this is a buy low thing. And in the prop world, when it sucks and it's hard to bet, that's when this probably has the most value on it. Just an awful game in week 18. We know that, but we're getting a discount and we're betting this number and not the actual play. It was 67.5 yards last week versus Cincinnati. You got Van Jefferson, Calvin Austin, Mike Williams, and you see Pat Freiermuth's receiving total go from about 44 to 39.5. So there's yards to go around in this game. And George Pickens is an elite receiver when he wants to be. And I think this is a good buy low point. And my best idea, and it works well with your receiving options in the backfield, just get down early. Not like the Cleveland game in Baltimore where they covered, but it was like in the last 2 drives. And they I mean, if you were on Cleveland plus 20, you felt pretty good going into the late ends of that game. But beat them up early, get that passing game early, abandon the run, and let's get some overs going on the receiving core.
Kevin in the live chat says Russell Wilson 1+ interceptions. Surprised that's at plus 102. I don't know how many picks Wilson has been throwing lately, but it's been a while since we've seen him in the playoffs. Did they make it the Seahawks his last year in Seattle? I don't think they did. So it might be like 3-4 years now since we've seen Russell Wilson in a playoff game. Okay, on to Sunday, the first game of the day, the Broncos in Buffalo to take on the Bills. And I'm going to take the Bills to go over their team total of 28.5 points here. Buffalo is an NFL best 13-4 to the over on their team total. That number goes to 7-1 to the over at home, where they're averaging 34.3 points per game. Another little nugget here. They crossed 30 points in 3 straight wild card round games. And I'm here to tell you, the Denver Broncos defense is overrated. A lot of the stats might say overwise, but they've played a real cupcake schedule here this season. Look at them down the stretch. They allowed 30 or more points to the Bengals, the Chargers, the Browns somehow. Stiff test in November when they went on the road in Baltimore to take on the Ravens. They allowed 41 points in that game. So I like the Bills. Josh Allen come out flying and go over their team total 28.5 there. You are targeting a Broncos receiver for your best bet for this game.
And the same thing. I'll take Buffalo piling up the points early, getting some Bo Nix rookie start on the road in Orchard Park to struggle early, and then just having to throw. This was already a Denver team that can't run the ball. But Marvin Mims' usage in this offense has been pretty impressive over the last 3 weeks. He's beaten Cortland Sutton in yards in 2 of the last 3 weeks, and he's plus 550 to lead all receivers in this game, which is a bet that's also in my account because Buffalo can certainly spread the ball around, and I think Mims can beat Sutton, who has a 30-yard plus-minus difference on his yardage total. What I like about it is his percentage. He's not running a ton of routes, but that can increase. 33% target share per route run. That is elite, and he's got elite speed. 4.38 speed. And what has Denver and Sean Payton been doing? They've been getting him the ball. He doesn't run a ton of routes, like I said, but they're disguising and they're giving him certain plays, certain things. They're isolating him. And because of that, I mean, 33% on routes run, that's a good number. And for a guy with that speed, this could be over in 2 catches, and we saw it last week.
Okay, on to Packers, Eagles in Philadelphia. I'm going to take the Packers as a plus 4.5 point underdog. And this one, my favorite spread bet of the weekend. So check out this amazing trend here for the Packers. This is a team that plays up to the competition. They are 15-2 against the spread in their last 17 games as an underdog of 3 or more points. This is a team that has been hard to pull away from. The last 3 losses have all come by 3 points or less. And I like the way their defense matches up against this Eagles offense. It's going to be all on Jalen Hurts here. Maybe potentially a little rusty. I know he's been off for a couple of weeks. He got back to practicing in full there yesterday. But the Packers are elite against the run. 3rd in yards allowed per rush attempt. Also pretty good at getting to the quarterback, top 10 in sacks. You go back to that week 1 game. You can argue that the teams are much different versions of what they were then. That's kind of fair. But still, I think there's something you can take out of that. Now, the Eagles did end up winning that game, but that was a game the Packers led multiple times, including within the second half. They easily won the yards per play battle in that game as well. So I like the Packers to at least keep things close against the Eagles. Josh Jacobs, what do you like for him?
I like how all your stuff's leading into my plays. Like everything correlates very well. And Josh Jacobs, it's the same thing. It's kind of that same number with, not so much with Mims, but kind of with George Pickens. This is a wild number for Josh Jacobs. Like Green Bay's not going to abandon the run in this spot. This was a number that was 91.5 yards just 2 games ago. And when the blitz likes an over, that's really saying something, because that projection absolutely loves unders on 90% of its releases. He projects for 94 yards. And back to the thing we were talking about with Hitman and saying guys are going to get big runs down the stretch depending on the game script. LaFleur is not going to go away from Josh Jacobs. You saw Emmanuel Wilson dig into his run share down the stretch. That was just to save him. It's going to be Josh Jacobs getting hopefully 95% of the RB opportunities, and this number is wildly low. We don't know the status of Jordan Love. He looked good at practice yesterday, but their explosive pass rate with Christian Watson kind of takes a hit. This is going to be a team that will be running for 4 quarters.
Okay, on to the Sunday night game. I'm kind of surprised this is a Sunday night game. Commanders at Broncos. Who knows how things work out with these TV networks, so how they have to divvy things up. But we have the Commanders in Tampa Bay. I'm going to go with a prop bet for my favorite bet for this game. I'm going to take Austin Eckler to go over his receiving yard total, sitting there at 18.5 yards. So this is a guy, he's coming off an injury. He is back to full health, though. We did see him in week 18. Limited action on the field still, though. He did get the 20 receiving yards on just 2 catches from 2 targets. This number was as high as 25.5 back in week 10. By the way, good matchup for him. Tampa Bay allows the 5th most receiving yards to running backs this season. This is a guy who has a very high ceiling. 41 or more receiving yards 5 times in 12 games. He's topped this number of 18.5 in 8 of those 12 games this season. He played the Tampa Bay Buccaneers back in week 1. He had 52 receiving yards off 4 catches in that game. And we all know these narratives about rookie quarterbacks making their first starts in the playoffs. Why not make things a little bit easier on Jaden Daniels here against a team that blitzes at a very high rate, gets a lot of pressure on the quarterback. So maybe some quick dump offs to Eckler for some easy yards. That is my hope for that one. Okay, last pick for the NFL segment, Ertz.
I mean, you've got to get a piece of something in this passing game with the 50-point total. The biggest issue here is with the Tampa Bay secondary. Jamel Dean's questionable. Slot corner Tyke Smith is back at practice. He was questionable yesterday. Mike Edwards, starting strong safety, he's questionable. Quarterback Jordan Whitehead, he's out. So this was already a team that we saw. I mean, we saw week 18 what the secondary was. I mean, Spencer Rattler kind of went up and down the field as he wanted to versus the Bucs here, who didn't really play anybody down the stretch. But Zach Ertz at plus 250 for a touchdown is just a fantastic price when you look at everybody wants to jump on Terry McLaurin, who isn't really the most targeted wide receiver in this group anymore. He just gets a lot of trust in the red zone. He's plus 120. But Ertz, over the last 2 games, he has 3 touchdowns. He has 6 touchdowns over his last 7 games. He has 6 of his 12 targets came in the red zone over the last 2 weeks in must-win games for Washington. This is a guy who gets a ton of trust, and I think his price should be much closer to where Terry McLaurin's price is, which is plus 120. I'd rather have Olamide Zacchaeus, who's the number 2 there and is actually getting some yards, than I would Terry at the price of plus 120. That's where I want. I got to get a piece of this, and I think with a 50-point total, this number's kind of off. I think this should be a plus 180.
Okay, Jingles, before we let you go, we'll put you on the spot here as our resident anytime touchdown score expert. Kevin in the chat, looking to take a big swing. He must be a Bills fan. More confident to get 2 touchdowns. Josh Allen at plus 490 or James Cook at plus 500. If you need to pick one, who would you go with?
I think you go Josh Allen. I think right now, coming off some rest, I think you could see some Ray Davis. You could see some Ty Johnson, and that's just cutting into the reps. Just take the guy who's out there for every snap in Josh Allen, who like you'd be upset if Cook had one and then they were blowing them out and they let Ray Davis get some snaps. And we've seen even in games where Josh Allen shouldn't be scoring because they're up by like 3 scores, he still scores. So if there's only a 10-point difference between the two, I think you go Josh Allen.
Indeed. Okay, Jingles. We'll have a lot to talk about when you're on the show on Monday, some winners and losers, and of course, all of our best bets for the Monday Night Football game, which is now taking place in Arizona. They need to move it out of Los Angeles, unfortunately, so we'll break that down on Monday's show. Enjoy the games. Best of luck with those bets, and we'll catch you on Monday.
Thank you so much, Joe. Take care.
Yes, sir, buddy. Okay, closing in on 1,200 live viewers watching live, the majority of you guys watching on X right now. If you're on YouTube, hit that like button right down there. If you like the show, let us know by simply liking that like button. Also, make sure you are subscribed to the Covers YouTube channel. A lot of great content coming up next week for a big UFC event and, of course, the college football national championship game. It's all going to be right here on the Covers YouTube channel. Okay, let's talk a little NBA. If we're talking NBA, we're doing it with our guy, the Magic Assman. His Orlando Magic are in action tonight. John, how you making out tonight? Or today,
good.
I should.
Yeah, good. We were one Dean Wade a point yesterday from cashing another SGP. We got Karis LeVert went over. Also caught a break because Donovan Mitchell was out, so Karis LeVert started. But Dean Wade finished on 5. We had over 5.5. George Niang got there, so it was pretty close. But we got some more today. 2 SGPs in the holster today.
Yeah, okay. So a couple weeks before Christmas, the NBA was getting, I guess you could say, a lot of bad press. People talking about how the TV ratings are down. I think some positive vibes, though, for the NBA, at least this week. And a lot of that is surrounded around the OKC Thunder. That game in Cleveland felt like a big deal. It absolutely delivered on it. Now they have a game tonight taking on the Knicks, where I was originally, before I looked at the spread, I'm probably thinking, yeah, that might be a good spot to bet the Thunder. It's up to 4.5 right now, though. That's a tough crowd in New York. So what do you think of the game? And what do you kind of think of the idea? I forget who I saw throw this out there. Like they were talking about how the NBA TV rate, people are down on the NBA for whatever reason. Maybe it's the 3-pointers. Maybe it's the fact that it's been the same guys for 20 years, essentially shoved in our face and down our throats. The LeBron, the Steph, the KD. The idea that the NBA should be trying to embrace the OKC Thunders and the Cleveland Cavaliers of the world, as opposed to making the big spotlight on the Lakers and the Warriors and the Suns, who are essentially 500 teams. You know what I mean? So what do you think of that approach? I doubt they'll do it, but I think it would be smart.
Yeah, I mean, the OKC Thunder, they're top team in the West last year, top team in the West this year. They've just delivered. Like against the Celtics last Sunday, it was an amazing game. Against the Cleveland Cavaliers, felt like an NBA Finals game. Now they're going to the Knicks. It'll probably be another good game. And they weren't even on Christmas. They didn't make the Christmas Day schedule. Cleveland Cavaliers weren't on Christmas either. So in terms of, and like, I mean, the primetime slot was LeBron James, Stephen Curry, and that delivered. But at some point, yeah, you do have to start. The Thunder keep giving you good game after good game after good game on TV here. So, and SGA is the favorite. He's like minus 150 to win MVP. So at some point, you got to start pushing the Thunder. And I know they're a small market, but SGA also said he doesn't plan on ever leaving Oklahoma City. He loves it in Oklahoma City. So they better start promoting the Thunder a little bit more. I thought they did a really good job. That Cavs Thunder game, they were like, from a media perspective, they were all over it, like hyping it up, big game, must watch, gave it a lot of attention. So I thought they did do a good job with that.
I enjoyed it. Okay. A pick revolving on that game coming up here. John has a couple same game parlays and a spread. I got a spread and total. Let's start. We got a couple bets for this Magic Bucs game down in Orlando. Why don't you get us started here with your pick on the spread?
Yeah, I took the Magic plus 6.5. I know this is going against the market because they open like 4 up to 6.5. I just think there's question marks about Paolo Banchero, but I feel like those question marks should have been yesterday, not today. It was initially reported, is he going to play? He's going to return Thursday or Friday. Don't know, and sit out the other. Well, he sat out Thursday. Then I think Chris Haynes also said he's playing Friday. He's already been practicing with the team. So I feel like it's pretty obvious he is playing. I did price this with him having a minutes restriction. So I put that about like 27 minutes. I feel like that's pretty fair. I mean, he has been off for a long time and he has he has been practicing, so he might not even have one. But just from like a matchup standpoint, Banchero, this is huge for the Magic. Like him coming back, they're obviously a really, really good defensive team. That's why they're still top 4 in the East in the standings. But when he comes back, that changes their whole offense. Like they need him so badly on the offensive end. And when you're looking at like specifically against the Bucs, like Giannis Antetokounmpo, a lot of teams don't have guys who can stop Giannis, but the Magic have multiple guys. They have Jonathan Isaac, Wendell Carter, Gogo Batazzi's a really good rim protector as well. So when you're looking at matchups on both sides, they've also had to use Cole Anthony a lot in the lineup for like offense, and you can kind of hide him tonight on defense because, on the other side, it's like Taurean Prince, Andre Jackson. They have guys who are just like there on offense. They don't do much. You don't have to worry about them being attacked. So it also allows the Magic to get more Cole Anthony in there as well. So I just think the matchup really plays. I think the 6.5 is too high. So give me the Magic.
Speaking of too high, I think the total 210.5 is too high. Therefore, I will take the under in this one. So 8 straight Magic games have gone under this number of 210.5. These 8 games have averaged just 195.6 combined points. The Magic will not score 100 points. Guess what? Their opponent won't either. I think it was John who threw that out a couple of weeks ago. And check this out. So this 8-game span, the Magic are dead last in points scored per game, but they're also first in points allowed per game in that span. The perfect under team, if the number is right, of course. And I do think the number is right based on the fact that both of these teams playing really good defense right now, second and third in defensive rating over the last 10 games. In terms of the style of play, slow pace and a lack of easy buckets. The Magic playing at the slowest pace in the NBA over the last 10 games. Bucs are elite at limiting points in the paint. However, they've been awful at getting to the free throw line. So I think a low scoring game under 210.5 for this one. John, you have a same game parlay. What are you throwing together for this one?
Yeah, so Magic Bucs. So I put them plus 6.5. Obviously, I like that as a straight bet. So it made as the leg in here. Paolo Banchero, 5+ assists. So even if when I dropped his minutes restriction, if I just gave him minutes restriction, I'm assuming he will have one. Even when I drop his minutes, he has a nice edge on his assist prop. And I do think, like, when you look at when Franz Wagner was the primary guy and they were missing Banchero, look at Franz Wagner's assist numbers. Everything's going to run through Banchero. That's just, they don't have any other options. So, and the Bucs are also massive on the interior, so they can force Banchero to pass. So 5+ assists, I think that's a really good like alt that you can put, like, this is the focal point of the SGP. And then I put Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, 10+ points. He's someone where, like, offensively, he has to work off of someone else. He's just a catch and shoot guy. And that's why their offense has been struggling with all these guys out, because he doesn't have anyone to create for him. I just do think a lot of those Banchero's assists could be going to Pope for like 3-pointers and stuff. And he's been shooting it well. So I think that's like just a pairing of those two players together work. So that's what I put together in that SGP, 10+ points for KCP.
Okay, minutes after being on the show, giving out Packers plus 4.5. Just officially announced that Jalen Hurts is officially out of concussion protocol, and the line has moved to 5.5. So I got burned by a point there. Hopefully it doesn't matter. Let's go Packers. Let's go Pacers. An 8-point favorite taking on the Warriors here tonight. Some might think that that's too many. I do not, and I will tell you why. Give me Indiana to cover as an 8-point favorite. I think they're playing their best basketball of the season right now. They're on a 5-1 straight up and ATS stretch over the last 6, which includes a win over the Celtics. Number 3 in net rating during the spin. So this is the second game of a back-to-back for the Warriors, and they have been awful in the second game of back-to-backs. Does it surprise you to hear that a Steve Kerr coach team kind of takes their foot off the gas in the second game of a back-to-back? They're 1-4 against the spread in the spot this season. Separate losses of 10 to the Spurs, 37 versus the Warriors. And their last time in the spot, they lost by 30 versus the Kings. So a little bit of a pattern here. So those were all the second game of a back-to-back. The first game in these instances, all games that they won. They won yesterday. So I think a possibility we don't get the best effort here from Golden State. And Indiana has had the edge in this matchup recently. 6-1 ATS in the last 7 games between the teams, including 5 outright wins. Give me the Pacers to take care of business. John, let's wrap things up with another same game parlay for the big game of the night, Thunder Knicks.
Yeah, 2 SGP. So I'm going, this one's for the Thunder Knicks. So it's plus 455. I went Karl Anthony Towns, 4+ assists. So when you watch how they were guarding Donovan Mitchell, like we took a loss. I did an SGP for that. We took a loss on it, but you could learn a lot from it. They were blitzing him, and they had like they're really over helping. Like the opposite defender on the guard position is like basically on the center line of the court, forcing a pass. And you saw Jared Allen, Evan Mobley, all those guys coming up to the middle. They're getting a ton of assists because they're just forcing the ball out of Donovan Mitchell's hands. That's what they did to Anthony Edwards in very recently as well. And I think it's probably fair to assume that's probably what they're going to do to Jalen Brunson as well. I think Towns could be the beneficiary of that from an assist standpoint. And then once he catches it in the middle, Mikal Bridges is the corner shooters, right? So the corner, you saw Max Strus knocking down shots for the Cavs. I think Mikal Bridges could be the beneficiary of that. So once again, it's kind of working off how I think they'll guard Brunson. I think it'll lead to more Towns assists, and I think those assists could be going to Mikal Bridges. And both of them were showing an edge individually on these props. So I put together for an SGP.
Ooh-wee, the king of the SGP. 2 of them. I'm thinking at least one of those is going to hit for you, John. That's it for the show. A quick recap of the picks here. My best bets for Super Wildcard Weekend. I'm going to put a few more out on Twitter, by the way. Chargers, Texans, under 42.5. I like Jalen Warren to go over his receiving yard total, 20.5. Bills team total over 28.5. Packers plus 4.5. It's up to plus 5.5 now. And I like it even better at that number, obviously. I had assumed that Jalen Hurts was going to be playing. And Austin Eckler over 18.5 receiving yards. As we wait, do we have any more best recap graphic? In a tough spot here, producer Mick. No worries. No big deal. John, any big plans here for the big weekend?
Not too much. He's got the graphic up there if we want to run through them. For the NBA.
My bad. Okay. Yeah. Bucs Magic under 210.5. That's me. Pacers -8. John likes the Magic plus 6.5. The SGP for Magic Bucs plus 525, and Thunder Knicks game of the night plus 455. It's going to be a big weekend of entertainment in my household. Ohio State, Texas tonight. Then we got the 2 wildcard games tomorrow. The 3 wildcard games on Sunday. I'm bringing my son out to a movie at 10 Eastern in the morning on Sunday. That's a thing you do when you have little kids. We're going to see Moana 2.
Good movie.
And you had recommended this movie, correct?
Good movie, yeah. In terms of like Disney movies and a sequel, sometimes they really flop, but I thought it was a good one.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, we'll have
the music's not as good as the first one, but I thought the movie was good.
Now, I haven't seen the first one. Will I be completely lost?
Yeah, you need to watch the first one. Yeah, you definitely need to watch.
I don't know if that's going to happen. It's more for my my 5-year-old son than my enjoyment. But yeah, maybe I'll read up and get a summary of the first one before we go check that out. Okay, so that does it for the show today. Reminder, Ohio State, Texas. A lot of coverage on that on yesterday's show. You can go back and watch that. If you go to the live section here on the Covers YouTube channel, you can find the breakdowns by Jake Butt and Brad Powers. They are both firmly on one side in that game, so you can go back and check that out. Thank you to John and Jingles for joining today. Thank you to producer Mick. Did a great job all week for us here. Thank you to our sponsor, BetMGM. Make sure you check them out for all of your sports betting needs. And most of all, thank you to all the great viewers for tuning in today and throughout the week. Best of luck with all of your bets here tonight, Saturday, and Sunday. We will catch you guys again on Monday. Let's go Packers. Let's go Pacers. Let's have some fun. Woo!